Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we're going to continue to discuss the case of missing Melodee Buzzard, who's 9 years old and was last seen somewhere between Colorado and Utah with her mom, and she hasn't been seen since. Her mom returned home alone in a rental vehicle, and she took this random 4-day trip, and it's very concerning. Now, in the meantime, you might know, if you've been following the updates with me, there's a playlist that I've made for you. It's in the description box. I'll also make sure to put it in the pinned comment, that Ashlee Buzzard was arrested, but on an unrelated charge for threatening a man with a box cutter and telling him he can't leave and regretting what she said to him. That's his allegations, right? His accusations. So she was charged with felony false imprisonment, and she was held on a $100,000 bond. And then the judge has just released her from custody, saying she's not a flight risk. So I'm sure many of you are thinking what I'm thinking. How is she not a flight risk? What does this mean for the investigation into Melodee's disappearance? So I thought today we could bring our very favorite attorney friend on, Josh Ritter from Courtroom Confidential, to join us so we could pick his brain and ask him, you know, what happens from here? Are there new potential charges? Where will the case go? What could happen next in the investigation? So let me bring Josh up. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad that you're here so that we can, you know, pick your legal mind. For those who don't know who you are, can you give us a quick introduction?
Sure. I was a prosecutor in the LA District Attorney's Office for about 10 years. I left there to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney, which is part of what I do now. But it seems like the most of my time is now spent doing this on YouTube with our channel Courtroom Confidential. So thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, I've got some questions for you so that we could try to figure out where do we go from here. I think it's really concerning that they released Ashlee Buzzard from custody, but we will get into that. Before we do, let me quickly show everyone your channel. It's called Courtroom Confidential. So if you haven't subscribed there yet, do check it out. Nightbot will also be sharing links throughout the stream. And Josh does have an upcoming, it's not that one, it's over here, an upcoming weekly roundup. So we'll all probably be there in the chat later. So if you're not familiar with Josh, hopefully after this day you will be. Okay, so my first question for you is, because this is a big one. People keep asking me, so I want to ask you, what are Ashlee Buzzard's Fifth Amendment rights in this case, particularly regarding her refusal to disclose Melodee's whereabouts to investigators?
Yeah, this is where we're really beginning to understand just how powerful your Fifth Amendment rights are and how they can be very frustrating. Usually we talk about it in the context of, you know, does a person have to testify? If they're arrested, do they have to speak to police? And, you know, but we rarely see it in a situation where it seems like people's lives are at risk. And that's really, I think, the situation we're looking at here. I mean, a girl who's been missing this long, everybody's really concerned about her safety at this point. It's no longer a family issue. I think it's really a safety issue. And so I know a lot of people on my channel have been asking, and I'm sure on yours as well, well, wait, you're telling me they can't force her to give answers and say where her child is? And the answer is no. She's got a Fifth Amendment right to, she can tell the police, I have nothing to say to you. And there is nothing illegal about that. Now, you get into a different territory if she starts talking to them and misleading them. Then you could talk about, well, now she's obstructing justice. Now she's perhaps further aiding in a crime. I mean, there's different creative arguments you could be made if she's starting to lie to the police. Even then, you rarely see charges just based upon lying to police because people lie to police all the time. But her ability to sit there and say, I've got nothing to say is very powerful. But, and we're going to get into this, and so I don't kind of want to steal your thunder on further questions, but officially, there does start to become this idea of, well, is she currently committing a crime of child endangerment by not cooperating with authorities if they're looking for her and if her child is in danger? But we can get into that, later on. But to your question about the Fifth Amendment, it's incredibly powerful and very frustrating for everyone watching it in action right now.
It really is, and I'm surprised because we've seen other cases before. Where's this one where I bring up my presentation, where, for example, with Harmony Montgomery, and then also JJ and Tylee. So the perpetrators there would be Adam Montgomery, and then obviously Lori Vallow Daybell, oh my word, and Chad Daybell. And they were told, you better produce your child or we're going to arrest you, and they were arrested. So at what point can investigators say that, or can they literally not? Because I understand her Fifth Amendment right. She doesn't have to say a thing. But I know with Lori, they also had a lot more probable cause. There were emails, there were things she was saying, lies. But what could they potentially find, on Ashlee Buzzard to make her produce her child? Say, where is she? Otherwise, we will arrest you and charge you with whatever it is. What could the charge be, and how could they do that?
Well, they could be saying that to her right now. I mean, there's a difference between saying we're going to force you to talk and saying if you don't talk, we're bringing charges. They could be having those conversations with her now. And I'm sure that they are. If they're not directly threatening her with the idea of some sort of further legal action, they're at least seriously hinting at it in whatever conversations they've had with her. And I think the Daybell example is really good to say that, we're eventually just going to turn this into a wellness check, welfare check, missing persons into a suspected either child abuse or murder case. But to your point, the thing that you highlighted is probable cause. What do they have at this point to believe that the child is in danger? And I know saying that, everybody in the chat is going, are you out of your mind, Ritter? Look at everything. Well, yeah, there's a lot of very suspicious stuff going on. She took off unplanned, removed her child from school, changed her identity, puts her in a wig, changes the license plate, goes off on this unplanned trip, no contact with anyone. All of that incredibly suspicious, but not necessarily illegal. Now, I think we're at the point where you're just going to have a prosecutor who pulls the trigger and says, you know what? I don't really care at this point if the charges are going to stick or if we're doing everything technically correct. Let's hash that out in the court. But I want to arrest this lady for child endangerment right now, or for whatever they feel that they can prove at this point. Because I do feel that how many days are we in? We're close to over a month of her being missing.
Over a month, yeah.
Over a month of her being missing. This is no longer, when it first happened, I was saying things like, listen, it's not illegal to take your kid on an unplanned road trip. Nothing wrong with that. It's not illegal to put your kid in a wig. It's not illegal to have your kid not have any contact with their family members. It's not, all of these things, as awful as they are not technically illegal. But a child who has not had that there's a concern about her welfare and that no one has had contact with her over a month, I do believe you're getting into the territory where they can just say, you know what, without further evidence, we believe some sort of crime has taken place and we're just going to arrest you for it.
Right. It's just so bizarre to think that she's, none of that's illegal, but surely the child, Melodee, not being in school, not knowing she's safe. Yeah, she got her basic rights that are being met. None of that is known. So surely at some point there's a tipping point that things could become illegal.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, there's a truancy issue at play here, right? I mean, you cannot just remove your child from school. There's, I'm sure, misdemeanor laws at play there. Even changing the license plate. There's something, she's violating some vehicle code and doing that. But all of these are just small fry stuff. They want something with teeth. And that's why I really applauded law enforcement when they brought these charges about the false imprisonment that are unrelated to this case, because we don't know really a lot of the circumstances of what that other case is. And I can almost guarantee you it's probably not all that serious, but they found something. And God bless that they did, because then they're able to arrest her, try to interview her, and keep a close eye on her, and just make sure that she's somehow under the jurisdiction of the court. Like, she cannot, hop on a plane freely right now. They're going to know about that and can prevent her actions because she is out on bail to the court.
Right. I just want to quickly tell everyone, I will respond. I'll put your stickers up and all your members' milestones and everything, like Janine, happy 12-month Grizzly anniversary. I'm going to do that at the end because this is about a missing child. It's very concerning. We have to get this information out there and really understand what is going on here. I think most of us are extremely concerned. We'll do the fun stuff at the end. Okay. So if you guys do buy stickers, I will star them and we will address them. And then we will make announcements at the end like you do, Josh. I always like it. Keep us all there. There's an announcement at the end. We're like, wait, what is it? What is it? If everybody stay till the end, there will be an announcement. Okay. So my second question is, how does the unrelated false imprisonment charge impact the ongoing investigation into Melodee's disappearance from a legal standpoint?
It's absolutely just a tool for law enforcement to have grabbed her. I think in their course of their investigation, they probably started talking to a bunch of people, and somebody comes forward and says, oh, by the way, this, they're all telling stories, I'm sure, about Ashlee's strange behavior. And this story came up, and a clever law enforcement officer and a clever prosecutor said, bingo, go arrest her for that. Let's put together a criminal complaint. We have enough here to have probable cause to arrest her on that. We've got a complaining witness. We've got everything we need. That's not the case that we're really concerned with. We're concerned with Melodee, but let's go hook her up for that. And then we can arrest her. We can bring her into the station. We can request to speak with her. Now, in the station, she could still say, I got nothing to say to you, but at least they have an opportunity to sit her down. And you know what? It makes things very real for her. People with very strange attitudes and a lot of, I don't want to talk to you, go screw yourself attitude, all of a sudden they're behind bars for a couple of days and that all changes. So I'm sure they were hoping that would happen. And it, sadly enough, doesn't look like it did. I don't think it had the desired effect, but she still remains under bail. So there are conditions that the court can place on her. I'm sure she's got travel restrictions and things like that, and they can still keep a close watch on her. So I think it was a very clever move by law enforcement.
And that's my next question. Why might the judge have decided to release Ashlee on GPS monitoring rather than keeping her in custody? And what factors go into determining that she's not a flight risk, especially in this scenario?
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this. And I'm hoping what I'm about to say is true. To your point, I think she's absolutely a flight risk. I mean, this is a person who's demonstrated they're willing to change their own appearance, change license plate on their vehicle, try to evade surveillance. This is a person who is like kind of a textbook example of a flight risk. And I think there's every argument to keep her behind bars. I'm wondering, and I have no evidence of this, this is purely speculation and based on my experience, I'm wondering if the prosecution wanted her out. Because if she was in and they're talking to her and they're getting nothing out of her, then her usefulness to them has ended. But if she's out and they can watch her and surveil her, and I don't know if they've got wiretaps on her phone. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're watching her computer activity. They may have done all of that. They may have warrants to be surveilling her digitally and otherwise, and they want to know where is she going, who's she in contact with. I think that's what's happening here. I think they needed action out of her because they weren't getting anything out of her talking. So maybe now they're just watching her closely to see where's she going to go, who's she going to talk to, who's she emailing, who's she in contact with, and maybe that they're hoping will further their investigation and lead to Melodee.
I really hope that that's the case, that they have been able to do those things, especially because if she did drop her off with someone, which is also what the felony false imprisonment victim said, that it's like Ashlee implied, said that she dropped Melodee off in Utah somewhere. And then she regretted what she said, and out came the box cutter and all of that. So if she did drop off with someone, surely she'd want to communicate with that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be very important to monitor her communications, unless of course she gets a burner phone, whole new phone. Like, oh man, but hopefully they can, watch her, and hopefully we'll have answers as to where
she's
Melodee is.
on GPS monitoring too. It's not like she's going to lose her tail. And if she does go somewhere and buy a burner phone, I'm sure they'll quickly try to grab a wire on that. And that's my guess. My guess is that they have run out of other options, and they just need some mistake for her to make that will hopefully lead to Melodee.
I really hope so. Now, could Ashlee face additional charges related to child endangerment or neglect if Melodee remains missing? And what evidence would be needed to support that?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's the nightmare scenario that Melodee is already not with us. That would be, I think, a clear-cut case that I think they would hook her for murder charges immediately for that. But if she's not, and she's just somewhere, and she's unwell, and she needs help, and she's is in need of some sort of assistance, then you could argue that this delay and games that she's playing with law enforcement led to further negative consequences with Melodee. So there's definitely an argument there. But if Melodee is just with a friend, some family member we don't know about, and they're just kind of hiding her from the outside world, and she's just kind of playing this sick game with everybody in law enforcement and just not telling us, that's a weird, listen, that's the best way this ends, that Melodee is well, but just somewhere we don't know. But it also leaves us in the most bizarre spot, because I don't know what they really charge her with at that point, because she hasn't really endangered her child. If her child is safe somewhere, and I pray that she is, but if she's somewhere where she needs help, and Ashlee's further lack of cooperation with law enforcement exacerbates that, there's definitely further charges they could bring.
I think that was actually, I want to jump to that last question just to make sure we touch on that. So drawing from similar high-profile missing child cases, what long-term legal outcomes could Ashlee face, if Melodee is found safe, versus if the situation turns tragic? That is an interesting one.
So this is also a very unique case in that Melodee's father is no longer with us. If he were in the picture, then he could have already reported her missing and abducted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd be talking about a kidnapping case. And it wouldn't really matter if Melodee were safe or not. Now you've removed the child, you've kidnapped the child from the other parent, okay? But because he passed when Melodee was very young, and she is the sole guardian, she's not responsible to tell anybody where Melodee is. The only person who needs to know where Melodee is Ashlee. So it's this weird situation where if she ends up being safe somewhere and she hasn't violated any laws by making her go missing, quote unquote, I don't know what we're left with. I mean, you could maybe, we've seen scenarios in the past where people have faked an abduction and the law enforcement has come after them for false police reports or something, but that's not even really the situation we have here. Melodee's not that, or Ashlee's not the one who called police. She's not the one that's, asking for all the attention. It's just family members and concerned community people going, what the heck is going on here? Where's this child? It's a very bizarre case.
It really is. And it all started with that school administrator, saying, well, she's had a prolonged absence. So what's going on here? I don't think Ashlee ever expected that to happen, because now the whole world is watching her and saying, well, where's your child? Like, what is going on here? And, if she's not doing anything illegal, one would think, well, why is the FBI involved? Why is the police looking into this? But at this point, there's so many risk factors. She already lost another child before to CPS. So there's a lot of risk factors that she has shown. I actually think I have some on my presentation here. Like re-enrolling her for homeschooling and then taking a random road trip in a rental car across 7 states. changing locations, wigs, license plates of a rental car. Did they have any luggage? Returning home without Melodee and not cooperating with the police, and tearing missing flyers down and trying to rent more vehicles and then getting moving boxes. Also part of why I'm like, damn, that's a flight risk,
Yeah.
right? All of these are also risk factors. The known mental health challenges since a young age, which is her own mom said that to the media. She's lost custody of Melodee before and another daughter. She had a traumatic episode at age 9 where she was on the run herself with her mom. Her partner died in a motorcycle crash, and they say her mental health has deteriorated since then. She's isolated Melodee from family. For some of them haven't seen her in 4.5 years. Her grandma hasn't seen her in 2 years. Known financial trouble, living off Social Security. So I don't know who's funding everything. And she's got obviously benefits and things. And homeschooling Melodee, but not legally. She was last confirmed, with educational activity October of 2024. So just looking at that, I'm sure that's of course what the police looked at and like, this is different to her just like driving, the road trip and dropping her off with a friend. There's a lot of huge red flags in this case. And that's why I think everyone's so concerned, even though Ashlee has got rights.
Think about this. As you were speaking, I was thinking about this. What if this had taken place in the summertime? And you're right. Only the school administrator is the only one who said anything, because the family has had no contact with her for so long that they're not reporting her missing, right? I mean, the fact that she is gone, with no contact with anyone is not abnormal to the family. They've been living with it for years. And it's only the school that said, where is this kid? But if it was in the summertime when they're on break anyways, I mean, how long had this gone on before anybody said anything? We would have had to wait for the new school year and go, why didn't this kid enroll? Where is this kid? Before anybody would have said anything. Think about that bizarre scenario.
Right. And the timing of this is so interesting, because within a week, actually 4 days of actually getting home alone, like Melodee was seen just the day before on October 9th, October 10th, she gets home. And by the 14th, the school administrator is like, right, there's something wrong here. Welfare check. That was amazing timing. Alicia K. Mayo says, huge shout out to her homeschool community. Yes, I'm so proud of them for noticing that, because she'd re-enrolled her in another school. Now, wherever she was enrolled before, sure, there was a prolonged absence there that they didn't check up on. So that sucks. But at least the school administrator called it in and asked for a welfare check. And Ashlee Buzzard isn't talking. So my next question is, what role could search warrants play in this case, such as for her vehicle, home, electronic devices, and under what conditions could they be issued, bearing in mind they've already issued executed 3 search warrants at her home?
I mean, I think that's the primary work that law enforcement is doing right now, is writing and executing search warrants, and perhaps other types of warrants too. Again, the question's always going to come down to probable cause, because they can't just go to they have to get all of these approved by a judge. And they can't just go to a judge and go, Your Honor, this is all fishy and she won't talk to us. They have to show that there's some sort of reason that because they're talking about, she's got Fourth Amendment rights to search and seizure. So they have to have some probable cause that they can explain to a judge why they need to search her electronics, search her home. Now, I don't think they're going to have much trouble for most judges when they say, listen, this kid, we can't find the kid. Mother won't talk to us. Kid was last seen wearing a wig. Mom changed license plates. All of that is enough suspicion, and I think rises to the level of probable cause that they're probably getting easily executed warrants from judges. But not just, searching electronics and her home and her car. I think they've likely got warrants to surveil things. I think they've likely had warrants to access her social media, access her electronic communications, continue to surveil likely her phone and her electronic communications. And I'm sure, on top of that, they're allowed to just place an officer on her. I'm sure there are cops sitting outside of her home right now watching her every move, in addition to that GPS monitoring. They want to know where she's going, who she's talking with, and what she's up to at any moment. But again, you got to wonder, we're now over a month into this and there's been no arrest in regards to Melodee. So have they come up with nothing? It sounds like it. I mean, you can guarantee if they came across blood inside that vehicle, some sort of evidence of foul play, they'd have locked her up. So I have to assume, I don't know, obviously, but I have to assume they haven't found enough to actually make that kind of arrest at this point.
Which, yeah, that can go either way. That sounds pretty scary as to, where's Melodee? Indy also asks, does a child have any rights? Like, at what point does one consider Melodee's rights? Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, she's got rights. But what right has been violated? I mean, it would be one thing if the photos and surveillance that we've seen of Melodee, she appeared to be in obvious distress. And from what I've seen, she doesn't. I mean, listen, she's wearing a wig and all of that is strange, but I don't, I haven't seen photos where she's being physically dragged in and out of vehicles, or she's trying to ask people for help or something like that. And she hasn't obviously communicated with anyone. So, it would be a very different question as far as her rights if she were, if we knew that she didn't want to be where she is, but we don't know that.
Oh man, what a case. I really hope, I always say this, like on these live streams, I really hope soon, will there be like a press conference or something that just we can have some answers, and I really hope Melodee is okay. So in your experience, how often do cases like this involve parental rights versus child welfare laws, and where does Ashlee's situation fit in?
This is very rare. And again, because the father is not in the picture, and because she was already estranged from her family, it makes it very, very rare. Usually in these types of cases where a kid goes missing like this, you have, the other parent who's like, listen, I've got custody rights and she hasn't contacted me, and I want her arrested for that alone. Or you've got other family members who say, I speak to this kid every single day and now I can't get a hold of her. Something is very wrong here. But none of that is at play here. So essentially what you have is a community who's going, this isn't right. Where's this kid? And a mother who's behaving very bizarrely. And I'm not trying to discount any of that. I mean, the idea that she is disguising their appearance and changing the license plates and going on this bizarre road trip, all of that is incredibly suspicious, but it also doesn't invoke the same kind of legal issues that we usually see in these missing persons type cases. It's very, and it makes it even more kind of concerning to me. It's almost like, how far out was this all planned?
Right. I mean, it does seem very calculated.
Very.
Even though her mental health is a concern, this is a lot of premeditation, in my opinion. Yeah. There's a lot of planning that went into this. The whole trip, I mean, even to drive that far. By the way, if anyone's just joining now, we're going to look at stickers at the end. Also, if you don't know about this case, you can expand the description box. There's a link to the playlist, and we've done lots of deep dives on this case. So you could check it out over there, because there's a lot of frequently asked questions coming up as well. And I've definitely answered in those episodes. So go and check them out. But just to show you this, wait, where's the map? We want to add the map to the stage. Oh my word, this trip. From October 7th, she starts. And then by October 10th, she's back and without Melodee? That is such a long trip, right? Yeah. Like, this seems very planned. I mean, you would need even a whole pack of Red Bulls for this trip.
Yeah.
It's so crazy long. Also, interestingly, if you look at this route, she told that person that, she was charged with a crime of felony false imprisonment, that she dropped Melodee off in Utah. But the person, Tyler Brewer, is saying he's not so sure if he can believe her. He's not 100% sure about that. But what's interesting is so here's Utah. And on the route that she took from the map that the detectives provided, look at this area that they listed that everybody should look out for: ring cam, dash cam, all of that. It's Panguitch in Utah. And you could see that she would have had to drive here. And if she went to Pangwood, she'd have to drive there and turn around and go back home. So I think this is quite a critical area as well, for people to consider. Definitely looking for ring cam, dash cam, any footage you might have. Keep your eyes peeled. You just never know if you might spot Melodee. Right? This is an interesting route she took here. And that's also along here where a person at a gas station said that they saw her, Ashlee, with a woman with purple hair or a purple wig. I mean, this case is it just cannot get more bizarre.
Do we know like what connection she has to the end of that trip? Like, do we know like where she was likely headed to?
We don't know, only that they said that she went all the way to Nebraska.
Yeah, is there something in Nebraska that she has a connection to?
Right? Not that we know of,
but that's not
right?
like Vegas. That's not some destination that you would, kind of understand. It's like, that's, no offense to people in Nebraska, but it's a bit of the middle of the nowhere for her to go to.
Right. And her mother said to the media that there are connections in Utah. So it's interesting that now the felony false imprisonment guy, Tyler, says that Ashlee says she dropped off in Utah because Ashlee's mother, so Melodee's grandmother, says that on Melodee's father's side, there's some friends and connections here in Utah. So she was seen somewhere between Colorado and Utah last, Melodee, on October 9th of 2025. So yeah, over a month ago. But this whole trip is just so bizarre. And all the wigs, and then that's not a crime, as everyone says, we know that it's not a crime, but like even the purple wig lady, like who is that?
Yeah.
Who knows things? And why are they not saying things if they do know things? If they do. Who could that be, right? Could it be Melodee? Maybe. But the person at the gas station said they thought it was a woman in her 20s or 30s. So even that is very odd. Not to veer off from our questions too much, let's see. The next one is, what legal strategies might Ashlee's defense team employ to challenge the false imprisonment charge? And could it tie back to the missing child investigation?
It's difficult not knowing like the full circumstances of the false imprisonment, but false imprisonment cases, it comes down to the basic question of, did you physically or, otherwise using fear, prevent someone from leaving a location? False imprisonment is a little different from kidnapping. Kidnapping has to do with, you have to actually move that person. So there's the element of like, you've prevented someone from having their own freedom, and then you've moved them from one location to the other, even if that's a short distance. But false imprisonment is like, you're just keeping them in one location. So, I guess they would try to argue under the circumstances that person didn't reasonably believe that they were unfree to leave. It's kind of a fact specific argument that I'm sure that they're going to have to make. Again, its relation to the Melodee case, though, is really non-existent unless there's something about this we don't know, unless there is some connection we don't know about. But I really do feel it was just the first thing that they came across, that they thought, this is a crime. It's arguably a felony. It's within the statute of limitations. We have a cooperated, like we've got enough to charge this person. Let's get her locked up and not worry about, we'll worry about winning this case later. I mean, this is like the tail wagging the dog. They don't really care about this false imprisonment case. They care about finding Melodee. So I really do believe it's just a clever tool by law enforcement to make contact with her.
I would assume that the defense team of Ashlee in that case, these charges that she was arrested for and now released from custody for, would also say what a lot of people on social media are saying. So many people are attacking the victim, saying he's lying, he's inserting himself into the case. Why would he even be at her house? He's apparently known her since 2014, so that's 2 years before Melodee was even born. But, they're saying that it's his word against hers. But obviously, the judge, in order to be able to agree to have her arrested on this charge, there has to be something. It can't just be that he made it up. There's got to be something, and obviously the police believed what he said, and now she's been charged with this. Now she's out.
It's definitely something there. It's not just completely made up. But I'm just saying that, like,
yeah,
you know, end of the day, if they lose that case, I don't think they care as long as they find Melodee. You know, the other thing I'm wondering too is that Ashlee obviously has some sort of mental issues at play, and they might just want someone else involved. And if she's arrested and charged with a crime, then she's going to be assigned an attorney. And maybe they're thinking, well, at least then we can talk sense to this attorney and explain to the attorney, we just need to find Melodee. And maybe they're hoping that that attorney acting as an intermediary will be helpful. I don't know. That's the other, you know, hopeful, positive consequence of having her arrested.
Interesting. That's a good point you make. Like, she would have to talk to her attorney. Well, what if she goes quiet on her attorney now too? Cold shoulder to him.
She could. I mean, that's the thing about it. She could tell her attorney, I got nothing to say about Melodee, but I happily talk to you about this false imprisonment case.
Right. Just to also clarify, Main Kung Mama says, I don't think he made it up. I don't either. I believe him. I think she's very capable of pulling out the box cutter and locking him in the house because maybe she regretted saying something, or she thought, oh no, like, you're in contact with her father's side of the family, which seems to be her worst fear. It seems to me that this is all driven by the fear to lose Melodee. But then the question is, okay, but where did you place her? Where is she? Yeah. What would that fear drive you to do? You know, because there's many options. Give it to a friend, sell her, kill her. There's many options. And there could even be life insurance involved for all we know. There could be a financial motive, you know? So all very scary. So if new evidence emerges about the road trip to Nebraska, and also they apparently went to Kansas too. It's not on the police map. What I mapped out there was what the police provided, the locations, but they also passed through Kansas. So that's interesting too. So if new evidence emerges, like surveillance footage or whatever else they find, what potential charges could arise, like kidnapping or custodial interference or things like that?
Certainly, if they find, like I said, some evidence that Melodee is in distress and that this is all being done against her will, that is a game changer. And that then they've got immediate evidence of a crime afoot. But I think the frustrating thing for law enforcement at this time is that they haven't found evidence of that. I am sure that they have tried to contact and traced her steps through, you know, the FBI's involved. They got unlimited resources. I'm sure they have tried to contact everybody who may have been in contact with the two of them on this road trip and ask them that very specific question. Was the kid in distress? Did she ask for help? Was she crying? Was she physically being moved by her mother here or there or anything? Because then you're right. Now we are talking about child abduction, kidnapping, something like that they could, something with more teeth and related to her actual disappearance that they could charge her with.
Right. And I think with the FBI on the case, it's interesting as well because they've got a lot of resources and they've already really narrowed down the timeline. They said Melodee was between Colorado and Utah on October 9th of 2025. From there, they're not too sure, but I mean, Ashlee was already home on October 10th by herself. So it's the 9th to the 10th from Colorado back home to Lompoc in California, but they're looking specifically there between Colorado and Utah. And ironically, Ashlee changed the license plates to New York license plates. On October 8th. They already have evidence of her having the New York license plate. So if you change it back to the California one on October 9th, and that's the last day Melodee was seen, that's a huge red flag. Yeah. So they are definitely zoning in on that, which actually is my next question. How does the involvement of the FBI change the legal dynamics compared to just local authorities handling the case?
Well, yeah, I mean, Lompoc is a smaller community. You know, there's sheriff's department up there. They do incredible work, but they're not tasked with a multi-state investigation. The FBI, you know, like I said, has all the resources in the world. They've got field offices in every single state. They can, you know, at the snap of a finger, basically call up hundreds of agents to get involved in the investigation if they want to, and move very quickly to get that all set up. So it's a game changer that they have become involved. I think it, one, shows you the seriousness of the whole thing, but two, it's nice to see that local law enforcement was willing to cooperate with and reach out to the feds to get involved in this whole thing. And you know, that could be a difference maker in all of this.
Yeah, which also tells us that digital forensic data is going to be very important. Cell phone, electronics, email, cell phone pings. That's also already how they know. That's how they narrow down the area, because they knew that Ashlee's cell phone actually pinged close to that gas station where she was there with some other woman and where Melodee was last seen. So
it also might be an
progress.
indication too that if you know, again, I hate to even start to think this way, but if Melodee is not well, if some horrific crime has already taken place, then there is a federal jurisdiction here. I mean, they could even be bringing federal charges if she moved her across state lines to commit some horrific crime. Then absolutely.
That is so true. And yes, Rowan, to you remind me, rental car data as well, because they did serve a search warrant on that rental car as well. I think they said that they have it in their possession, or they had it, right, to analyze everything there. So maybe they gave it back now, but they were able to, I'm sure, because a new car as well. I think it was a 2024 Chevy Malibu. So yeah, hopefully it's got all the things on board that they can find whatever they need. What are the implications of Ashlee pleading not guilty to the false imprisonment charge, and what might the next court steps in that case look like?
It's funny because I think that case is just going to proceed along like it were just a standalone case, unrelated to the actual bigger issue at play here. Now, I think prosecution will probably try to drag their feet on that and slow play that case, because they don't want it to go away. They don't want it to resolve quickly, because then they lose their ability to you know, keep her under bail conditions, which include the GPS monitoring and everything else. And again, that's not the big important case here. The important case is, where is Melodee? So I wouldn't be surprised if prosecutors asked to keep putting it out. The interesting thing, though, is you know, the defense is the ones who control the clock. She could walk into court and say, I want my trial as quickly as I could get it. She could be getting a trial on that case within 60 days at the quickest. And wouldn't that be bizarre if we had a resolution of that case and we still haven't found Melodee?
Oh man, I hope that's not the case. Yeah. You know, Joy says, what are the legal ramifications to a person who may have Melodee but doesn't tell authorities? Yeah, that's a good question as well.
It is a good question. So it would all come down to, is anything that's taken place at this point illegal? And if there is an argument to be made that anything that's taken place to this point is illegal, then you could argue that that person is aiding and abetting in that crime. But if nothing that Ashlee has done is illegal, and again, you know, as frustrating, as shocking as it may be, it's not illegal for her to take her on a road trip. It's not illegal for her to put her in a wig. You know, it's arguably against some sort of truancy law to remove her from school. But if none of that is illegal, and she, you know, it's not illegal to drop your kids off with a friend and say, can they stay with you for a little bit? So if that person is just keeping her well and not committing any independent crimes, then that person isn't really aiding and abetting and harboring Ashlee in committing a crime if no crime has been committed. It's just this bizarro world that we're living in. I mean, it's really... the thing about it is that we all are more and more frustrated and worried, because no normal parent would be doing this. Any normal parent would, even if they don't want to be bothered, even if they don't want to really involve law enforcement, they would at least go, my child is safe. My child is at X location. If you want to have a phone call with her, fine. But other than that, leave me the F alone. But she hasn't even done that. And it's just driving everyone nuts, because we're all thinking, well, then she's not alive and she's not well.
I mean, yeah, even with the pressure, even being arrested, it seems like she's not talking at all, which it just makes one's heart sink. You know, your heart drops and you're just like, what is going on here? Because yeah, she would just say, just leave me alone. What the hell is going on here? Even on social media, even to the cameras, to everyone. But clearly she has this fear of Melodee being found. Like, she wants to hide her, My fear is, how did you want to hide her? With someone or deceased? I don't know, man. It's very, I just hope that we will have answers, because now, of course, as we know, it's an international case. Everybody's looking at this and wondering, is Melodee okay? We all want to know, where's Melodee? Is she okay? Is she doing all right? Because it sounds like even for the last 4.5 years, she's been incredibly isolated. I mean, she lost her dad when she was 6 months old. But since then, she's been completely isolated. Apparently, one of the neighbors approached Ashlee and said, hey, if your daughter maybe wants to play with my son sometime, like a play date, and she said, no. She doesn't get along with other children, and she's got autism. That's apparently what one of the neighbors said. So even that, it's just denying her childhood, Makes me really sad.
Yeah, very sad.
Okay, so the next question is, could Ashlee invoke familial privilege or something like that if questions about interactions during the road trip, if they ask something about that, what did you say to Melodee? What did you say to family members? If they find connections, or does that not apply here?
Well, like Ashlee, absolutely. I mean, both of them, quite frankly, it's not even looking for a privilege. They don't have to speak to law enforcement if they don't want to. Ashlee doesn't, we talked about this before. She's got a Fifth Amendment right. She doesn't have to speak to law enforcement if she doesn't want to. Now, the question I think that you're kind of going with this is, what if she's told other people? Are there other people who might fall under some sort of privilege that she's talked to? And not that I can think of. I mean, if she, obviously whatever she said to her lawyer falls under that privilege. Whatever she may have said to a doctor or therapist falls under the normal privileges, but those privileges also have exceptions for exigent circumstances and the safety of others. And if they feel, if she's spoken to a doctor or therapist and said something that they feel she might be either going to cause harm to another person or cause harm to herself, they can absolutely tell law enforcement about that. There is an exception to that, but none of that has come up in this case.
Oh, man. I just quickly want to show everyone this one, just in case they don't know about the case. You can contact the tip lines. If you saw anything, please continue to say something. If you spot Melodee somewhere, if you are anywhere on that route. Ashlee drove from Lompoc in California all the way to Nebraska, passed apparently by Kansas. And then they said Melodee was last seen on October 9th between Colorado and Utah. So they're asking the public to look at surveillance cameras, dash cam, ring cam, surveillance footage from hotels, motels, gas stations, all of that. If you could share this with people that live in the area as well, you just never know who could call in a tip that maybe didn't yet, that could really help in this case to find Melodee. Everyone just wants to know that she's okay. If she's staying with family somewhere, maybe like someone said earlier, they don't have internet or something. Okay. Everybody just wants to breathe a sigh of relief that she's okay. And until then, unfortunately, everybody's going to be very concerned. I only have 2 more questions for you. One is, from a prosecutor's perspective, what hurdles do they face in building a case against Ashlee without direct evidence of harm to Melodee? Because as you say, with search warrants, they've taken out concrete and carpet and boxes and all sorts of things from her home. They've looked at the rental car, her own car. It doesn't seem like they've come up with something. So what that would probably be the hurdles. But what hurdles would you say they face in building a case?
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult and very frustrating, I'm sure, for law enforcement and prosecutors right now. That's why I say I applaud them for even coming up with the idea of arresting her for something unrelated. I do think, though, that, it's one thing to bring criminal charges, and it's another thing to be able to prove those at court, right? And I'm trying to say this in a way that's diplomatic enough. I am certainly not encouraging prosecutors to just charge people with zero evidence of anything. But there are perhaps clever ways that they could charge her in this case related to Melodee that maybe are on questionable legal ground, but might be enough to compel the end that they're looking for, which is the recovery of Melodee safely. I think the last thing, and I'm sure that law enforcement and prosecutors are talking about this and losing sleep about this, the last thing they want to do is just sit on their hands and then something horrific happens. And they know that if they had acted sooner, they might have been able to save her. So I'm sure they're all trying to think of clever things, but it sounds like they've had about a month's worth of time to scour the earth for that, and they haven't found it yet.
That is so scary. And I mean, yeah, the pressure is on, especially when a case becomes high profile on social media. You know, the pressure's on now. Everyone's looking at the FBI. They're looking at the police. Like, what are you doing? Why? Even though, as you said, Ashlee's got rights. She doesn't have to say. Now we all nosy. Now we all want to know. We especially want to know that Melodee, a child, is safe given all those risk factors we discussed earlier. Now, quickly, just to see Volanos, I just want to say, because you said, is there not an updated photo of her? She looks like she's 6. She was apparently 6 or 7. It was 2 years old. And that's the latest picture that Ashlee provided, which is just another red flag. That was from when like 2 years ago. No recent pictures of her. Huge concern. Yeah. So the picture on the right is actually from surveillance footage at a rental car agency from October 7th of 2025 when they left California. And that's the most recent image that we have of her. Now, the FBI does have surveillance footage from a gas station, which is how they know that Melodee was with Ashlee on October 9th of 2025. But we haven't seen that. They don't release that publicly. So I don't know what she would be wearing then, how she'd look. Would she still be in a wig or not? But yeah, these are the most recent pictures we have because her mother doesn't have any recent pictures to provide and didn't want to, right? So that's all we have. Tammy, thank you so much. So yeah, and she looks very different here. Hey, my word. We saw her in court. She had her arraignment, I think it was yesterday, and yeah, she was released on GPS supervision. Okay, so my final question is, how might bail conditions like the $100,000 bond and GPS supervision evolve if the missing person case escalates? Like, would it still, I would assume it's still 2 separate cases, right? They wouldn't like tie them together and all that.
Yeah, the judge is in a difficult spot because the judge can only consider so much evidence, even though I'm sure the judge is well aware that this is much more about a missing person than it is about a false imprisonment case. But the judge has to make a decision based upon, the facts and circumstances in front of him. So in other words, you can't come to this judge and it's a felony misdemeanor, felony false imprisonment, and there's no allegations of, violence or injury or something like that. And the judge go, well, I'm going to set bail at $5 million, something ridiculous, So the judge is obviously basing it upon the circumstances of this case. But the prosecutors, in talking about bail and bail conditions, can bring in other elements. And if they feel like, I'm sure they made arguments to the judge about her, kind of bizarre behavior of disguising her appearance and the changing the license plates and the missing child and the uncooperation. And, I'm sure the judge took that into consideration because GPS monitoring is kind of an added bell and whistle you don't usually see. Usually if the bail is set, bail is set. But now the judge on top of that says, well, even if you're out, I want you to be monitored. And I do believe, my suspicion is that they were kind of okay with that at that point. Like they've spoke to her. She probably said nothing. Now they need her to do something. They need some action out of her because if she just remained in jail, she's not going to communicate with anyone. She's not going to try to reach out to anybody. She's not going to go anywhere, and they're not going to get further information. They want her out doing something, and they're going to try to exploit that.
Now, actually, there's a bonus final question, because as you were talking, I just thought about this. Is it possible that at some point the FBI and the detectives would actually have to just take a step back? And is it possible? We'll never know what happened to Melodee. Like that they would scale back the search. They don't have any answers. She just vanished.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, that's a great question. At what point does, there are laws about children being in school and enrolled in, even if you're not in school, being enrolled in some sort of homeschooling. I'm not familiar with those laws, but I know they exist. I know you can't just say, I don't want to participate in society with my child at all. You have to at least file documents or something. And I imagine, there's other things like, vaccination laws and things like that that might come into play. So I don't think that she can just kind of take her off the grid and that be the end of it. And, we've seen other cases where somebody has gone missing and eventually they are legally ruled dead. And then now you're talking about, okay, do we want to investigate this as a homicide case? But you're talking a year or so down the line before we're even having that conversation. But, just because it's your child doesn't mean that they can go missing, easier than if it were your spouse. I mean, substitute this. If this were her spouse who just disappeared and nobody can get in touch with them, eventually police would say, okay, well, we're going to turn this from a missing person into a homicide case. And that might be where we end up in this one.
Oh man, that is so scary. And dumb question of the day. And then I'm really done. Then we're going to get to the announcement quickly because we've just about run out of time. If somebody has her, they can't change Melodee's name because they'd be watching that, right? On the legal system, like legally change her name and then enroll her in school in Utah, let's say. Obviously the FBI is on that, right? The police are on that.
That's a great question. Could they just basically have her assume a different identity? No, I mean, if they wanted to do it legally, it's got to go through birth certificates, Social Security, everything else to make those legal changes. But, even if you want to enroll a kid, if they just brought her to Utah, let's say, and they want to give her a totally new identity and enroll her in school there under a new assumed identity, Utah, I'm sure, has laws that need you to, in fact, prove the identity of that child. You can't just show up with a kid and say, this is my kid and this is their name. And she's going to need to have documents. Now, she could, I suppose, forge those documents and everything else. And we've seen cases where people have gone missing and all of a sudden been discovered decades down the line under assumed names. So it's not entirely impossible. And if somebody was aiding and abetting in that, then there's a crime certainly at play there.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
So
bizarre case.
We'll be following this because it is bizarre. This is one that does keep me up at night. And sometimes I dream about it. I'm like, oh my word, she could be, I don't know what, with some small community, an Amish community. She could have been, I don't know, somewhere in Utah where they're not really accessing the internet. They don't know right now.
Yeah.
We just don't know. Okay. So now getting to the announcement. The announcement is, everybody, happy birthday, Josh. It's Josh's birthday, but not only that, it's his wife's birthday too. Yes. Oh my word! You share the same day. Like, yes. How do you even get that right?
I don't know how the universe collided and it worked out. So yes, it is both my birthday and my wife Tiffany's birthday. So thank you very much.
Definitely shaking my head at my husband. Your birthday is not on the same day.
I know.
Come on, man.
I never have an excuse of forgetting her birthday too. So
Man, so I really hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here on your birthday. I do want to tell everyone, please go and support Josh's channel because, YouTube takes a huge chunk. So if they take a chunk here, then I go buy stickers there. Just rather support them directly on their own channel. You have a weekly roundup episode coming up today, right? So people can go over there and buy lots of stickers for you to wish you, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
I really hope they will.
2 p.m. today, 5 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go live with our weekly roundup. So please check it out, everybody. We would love to have you.
It's a nice time, 11 p.m. for me. I'll be wide awake.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And not jogging. I always take you guys with on a jog, but that will be like, oh, beady eyes. Okay, just watching that. Janine says, if Melodee is found, what will Ashlee be arrested for, if anything? Okay, that's one other question. I think we touched on that, right?
Yeah, maybe nothing. As shocking as that all is, it could be that she's arrested. If Melodee is found and completely healthy and happy, maybe nothing.
Okay. Courtroom Confidential, you bought us a sticker? Yeah. Thank you so much. What a guest. You bought us a sticker right here. Thank you so much. Deborah said so much has to change around homeschooling, including the parent supplying a recent photo. No one knows what the child looks like today. Truancy has to be a more serious issue. That as well. Phoebe, thanks for being a member for 22 months. You said that was definitely premeditated, just hoping she had become paranoid and thought she was going to lose her and Melodee somewhere safe. All right, that's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
Tammy, thanks for becoming a member. And lastly, M. Sherry said, why can't they press child abandonment charges if she won't produce her child and prove that she's being cared for? I mean, we touched on that as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted. I think you're also going to talk about this in your weekly roundup, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it tonight. A lot of the issues that we brought up today, it's a case that, everybody kind of can't get out of their mind because as each day goes by, we're more and more like, wait a second, where is this kid? And I think we're all just really praying for a happy conclusion, or at least a bizarre conclusion at the worst to all of this. And we're just really hoping that this doesn't end up to be the nightmare that we're all fearing.
Right. I really hope so. Also, if you guys haven't checked out Josh's channel, it's Courtroom Confidential. It's linked in the description box. I'll link it in the pinned comment. Nightbot's been sharing it, but just go to YouTube and type in Courtroom Confidential, and then you'll find his channel there. And you have a second channel, which also comes up then. Courtroom Confidential, live trials, right?
Yeah. Where we follow any kind of live trial, we'll stream it on that channel.
Okay, nice. Well, everyone, I told Josh I'd only keep him for an hour. It's 1 hour now. We've done it. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. I think you've in some ways put our minds at ease. In others, not so much.
Yeah.
Case is very concerning, and we'll keep our eyes on it. And you guys, again, check out the playlist if you haven't done the deep dives with me. All right, everyone. Happy Friday. I'll see you in Josh's chat later. Thank you, Josh, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello to all the Grizzlies.